Joining me now to debate this is Sebastian Payne from the Spectator magazine and Joe Twyman, Head of Political Research for YouGov. And Joe, the Greens are polling higher than the Lib Dems, so it's fair enough, isn't it?
Well, the Greens are polling higher than the Lib Dems at the moment. We don't know how things will turn out over the next few months, but the Greens have certainly experienced a big boost over the last few weeks. But Lib Dems have a lot more MPs, and so if you're judging things on that, then you would have to say that they are the established third party, and the Greens are a distant fifth.
Seb, even so, the Prime Minister's got a point, hasn't he?
Absolutely. You know, the Green Party, they are a parliamentary party, and among 18 to 24-year-olds, they're the second most popular party. So people are obviously interested in them. They want to vote for them. And if they're not in this debate, whatever format they eventually do take, there will be a portion of the population, particularly the younger portion, who think, why aren't they included? Why shouldn't they be there?
There'll be an even bigger portion of the population who will also be wondering, well, where are the Scottish National Party? Where are the Democratic Unionists? Where are Plaid Cymru? They've all got MPs, plenty between them, so shouldn't they take part as well?
Of course, there is an argument that anyone who's a big party could get involved, but they're not national party. You know, not everybody in the country can vote for the SNP or Plaid Cymru or the Irish parties either. So I think that there is a line to be drawn, and probably including the Green Party is a good line, because then it's parliamentary national parties.
Thing is, Joe, if you did have the SNP, Plaid Cymru, the Greens even, you'd have more women involved. As it stands, you're just going to have men in suits.
You would. In that sense, it's good for democracy, but you'd also have lots of people talking, and effectively you'd say, right, you have 10 seconds to sum up your position. The public votes for the Greens being involved, but really no further than that. And so 2/3 of people want the Green Party involved, and then large majorities want UKIP and Lib Dems, Conservatives and Labour.
Yeah.
But I think what will actually happen is that most concentration will be placed on the Conservative versus Labour, the David Cameron versus Ed Miliband debate, if that can be arranged.
So there are 3 debates being prepared for. There could be sort of more in the first one, the sort of 3 or 4 leaders in the second, and then just the 2 of them in the third.
Exactly, and I think that's the final one that matters, because people watching these debates, they're not going to be directly voting unless you live in Ed Miliband or David Cameron's constituency. So they're going to be thinking, who do I want to be my Prime Minister? And it's Ed Miliband and David Cameron who are the only 2 realistic people. So I think as long as that 2 debate happens, then for the others, from David Cameron's point of view, does it really matter about the others?
I mean, our viewers are pretty engaged with this. Anne Bridges says he's right in saying all parties should take part. That's democracy. Brian Atkinson says it's his choice. Leave him out. The thing is, Joe, should it be his choice? The genie is out of the bottle now, after all, with TV debates. Should it just be in some way mandatory that, you know, we have one every time? Or 3 every
politicians will always say, I want to do debates in public, but then quite often they'll find a way out of it. In America, of course, there was a debate in 1960, but then there wasn't another one for 16 years. So the genie was out of the bottle, but it took a long time for him to cast the spell there. I don't know what's going to happen here. It wouldn't surprise me if the debate didn't take place this time around, because it's not in David Cameron's interest. It's certainly not in David Cameron's interest to go up against Nigel Farage. And so he's thinking, well, the hit that I will take in terms of negative public opinion from not turning up is far less than the hit I will take from turning up against Nigel Farage and having him perform in the way that he did against Nick Clegg in the European debate.
Because it is a different era these days. I mean, the Prime Minister doesn't even call the election now. They fixed the date 5 years ago when the coalition first emerged. Should it be taken out of his hands?
I think it's fair enough. You know, the debates are going to happen, I think, in some form, because the TV broadcasts are now trying to scratch their heads and thinking, how can we get something that's acceptable to the Prime Minister? And if they get a formula which includes the Greens in the 5-4-3 or whatever combination, then the Prime Minister does have to sort of accept that, because he's laid out his conditions. Then he now can't say, well, actually, I don't want that anymore. But if they can't find something that doesn't happen, the debates don't happen, then David Cameron does risk losing some political capital, particularly in the empty chair situation, which they would be he is trying to call their bluff a bit at the moment.
It could be 5-4-2 after the election, could be 3-4-5, who knows how many parties involved. Thank you both very much indeed.